Everybody at?
It must be over there.
Good stuff.
Hardy in here.
Must be.
Supposed to be coming in.
Yeah, I see it. I don't know if they started a Sunday lunch thing, a breakfast thing.
And I'm just getting my uncle on the we were there.
Oh, I've been there a couple times, watched that. Yeah.
Problem is they don't advertise. You gotta kind of hear about it because I think people are serving.
Advertise it easier, yes. The food is ours going to be involved with it.
I'd love to go over there and see that.
I mean, it's pretty impressive what $130 million will do.
Public comment sign-up sheet right here, and it is pertaining to the budget only on the sign-up.
Got this in the mail from the tax collection office about delinquent taxes.
Yes, sir.
This is Madison County. Madison County is an act and cut tree taxes right here. And I get this notice. Bill Briggs over here, he knows me from a long time back. I had a car lot up on 213 and we paid our taxes and did everything else.
Okay, this is there are back taxes owed.
Right,
Okay.
for 2014. 6 months behind.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't deny that. I don't. I just didn't like the way it was sent to me.
Everyone that owed for this period got one of these letters.
Okay, what's the law in North Carolina about
that paper and look at it.
Lived out here for 15 years
have a
now.
lot
I understand that. I understand that.
And we,
But I also understand it's agriculture. And I know there's a lot of old people here on fixed incomes, and they got huge parcels of property that they're having a struggle to pay
There's
taxes.
a lot of people that don't, I'll tell you that, they just want them to pay the taxes.
Well, I agree with you.
And I mean, the way it's.
Oh, it'll never be forgotten. I'm truly, I'm to it. So, hey, just the wording in this inflamed me, okay? And everybody that's,
well,
I understand. I understand, and I appreciate that, guy. But, God, let's be a little kinder to each other.
This time I will now call the meeting to order, our 2015-2016 budget. If everyone will please stand and we will have our pledge. One nation under God, indivisible, with all. Remember those in Charleston, South Carolina who had lost. Thank you. First thing on our list is our agenda approval. Any questions or discussion on our agenda? Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So,
Do I hear a second?
second.
All in favor of the agenda approval, raise your right hand. All opposed, likewise. Agenda approved. Ms. Marla Good, you're up. With our local salary pay plan and commercial insurance.
First thing is our local salary pay plan. Something that this plan is what's included in the budget for the health department and the DSS departments. This is something that's mandated. If we choose to participate, which we have. If we don't, we as a county have adopted to set our own pay scale for these departments. The memo shows the changes from last year have been removed. No longer needed. Some people have moved from one position to the public health nurse one. Maybe those are not included. Our local plan, which we use the same grades that the state does. The salary scales are a little different, but also the complete plans listed on the back of that. And this is just to keep us in compliance.
When is the actual deadline for this?
This has to be in place by July 1st.
Excuse me?
This has to be in place by July 1st.
July.
It's not due to be submitted. We don't have to have.
And does this cover the entire county or just DSS? And
Just DSS and the health department. And the Office of the Act.
Any questions or comments from the board for Marla on this? No. Do I hear a motion to approve our 2015-2016 salary plan for DSS and Health Department?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, likewise. Motion passes.
And the second item is our commercial insurance renewal. Giving you a memo talking about what our increase, what our rates were last year. We did receive just 2% this year, and the current current trend, according to Surrey Insurance, is a 3% increase based on the market. We've been with Surrey for about 6 years. They've been very easy to work with. They go out and shop the market for us every year. They work with a lot of the basic renewal with them. The only differences in coverages would be anything that's may have changed due to underwriting. Basically the same as we pay.
Mona, we had a lot of claims against this policy.
Not a lot, I don't know how many exactly we've had, but nothing out of the ordinary, nothing in excess, but, I mean, that didn't have anything to do with the increasing.
Have they increased it every year?
Yes,
They have.
just a little, yeah, just based on the trends of the market, it tends to increase every year. We're seeing at least an increase in this year, so.
What about our deductible? I show one in here is 1,000.
Yeah, we have to,
Right.
depending on depending on the room, which is equipment that can be moved together. Our boiler and machinery, different, what type of, like I said, what type of damage that we have on those. And blanket, the board's honesty is 1,000. We're going to each individual one to see what we would have. And our automobile, I believe, a lot of these are based on just each occurrence, so.
You know, next year, I mean, I'm not saying we do it this year because time has really gotten away from us on this. We need to, but next year I would want to get a quote with maybe raising our deductible. Counter.
They can give us different deductibles. They try to just pretty much keep it the same request.
Yeah.
Something different. But we can get quotes for higher deductibles.
I would like to see that next year, not that that would be a reason to change, but if it was a considerable amount less in our premium, then we might want to consider. But I would look at the number of claims that we were having too. You know.
List of those, and I can get those for you.
That'll be fine. Okay, thank you.
How much lead time do we normally get? I mean, I know it's due July 1, I firmly understand that. But how much lead time do we have to make a decision on this?
If we get the information, they stuff about mid-April. So when they start all insurances usually wait till about April so they can see what the loss runs are and what the claims are, so that they can go out and people that already have particular coverages. They go out and shop that claims information to be able to get a good quote.
Okay. Any more questions for Marlon?
No.
Discussion. Do I hear a motion to approve our commercial insurance policy for 2015, 2016?
Yes, sir. So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion, second. All in favor of approval of the insurance renewal, raise your right hand. All opposed, likewise. Thank you, Marlon.
Thank you, Mark, for all your hard work.
All right, Mr. Forrest, again.
Commissioners, you have before you final that highlights some of the discussions that you all have been in the previous few months, and a copy available for the audience as well. looking at the Madison County budget, we have several funds that we work with, the largest of which is the general fund, which is where we spend most of our time. That's where all of our major departments are. The Sheriff, Finance Office, Health Department. Landfill is an enterprise fund that is funded separately. General fund is funded from a number of landfill. There is a 911 fund, but there's a separate portion of surcharges that goes for addressing, which is expected to be $181,000, administered by the Tourism Development Authority for the purpose of advancing tourism in Madison County. And then fire district taxes, which each district taxes residents of taxes. Looking at the largest chunk of our budget, which is the general fund, look at this chart that has your general fund revenues by $22.2 million budget. You can see starting at the right that a little over budget is dependent on either current or prior years or late listing or motor vehicle property taxes related to real estate. And you see a small portion of our budget comes from the sales tax, and then we have this huge chunk that comes from other revenues. That other revenues would be anything that basically doesn't fall into those other categories. That would be your fees, your payments from the federal government, any grants that come in to any agency, any of the we get at Social Service Department. There's a very small category of franchise taxes and other tax fees. This is actually only general fund, so landfill, yeah. So this, and then transfer from fund balance is about 1.81% of the budget. Stop me if you have questions. Next slide has your general fund expenditures by function. These are broad categories. You have, including state and the child care subsidy is about 5%. Management, examiner, ambulance service, animal control makes up about 23%, takes up about 15%. Education, which includes AB Tech and as well as 25%. Collector, assessor, your attorney's fees, your court facilities, board of elections, register of deeds, maintenance, information technology, that makes about 11%. And then a number of smaller ones that add up. Debt service at 3.38%. That is entirely for the jail and cooperative extension. There had been a payment prior that we paid off this year that had come from 4042 funds for the Marcy Elementary School. That would still show as an expense even though it was 4042 funds. Transportation, which is our transport, is down there toward the bottom. Economic and physical development. Basically the small amount of money that we give to nonprofits, conservation district, and then we have $75,000 contingency and transfer to revaluation fund prepared for the 2020. The next chart is essentially the same information that attempts, and it's an estimate, but it's very close, to see where is it that our county dollars go. And when I say county dollars, I mean property tax, sales tax, funds that come to the county that aren't from fees, with about 30% of the budget. Services, which is first with all funds, that comes fourth with just county dollars. Health and Human Services comes fifth, and then smaller amounts from there. But it does show you all money coming in. We look at it, fund, we have to budget it, but the reality is the amount of county tax toward different areas when you look at what 1 cent in property tax pays. The next chart simply shows trends of general fund expenditures. We have, as you can see, 14, 15, we're still following. I am anticipating, due to how the budget went into effect and some things that we're still dealing with this year, that we may see the expenditure likely outpace the revenues, which is something that we need to, it should not happen, but we're going to not let it happen again after this year. And then the budgeted appropriation revenues and expenditures for this year in the last column is slightly lower. The final count, I believe, is 2.1% for the current year. Some revenue trends. Revenue for the current year's property taxes is increasing slightly. Our year-to-date collection rate is 93.67. A year ago, it was about 93.37. So we're making good progress as a result of the push for people to pay their taxes. Just so you know, in a low point for a collection rate, we were at 90.5%. The state average is 98.23%. And the group average for counties of 25 is 96.24%. Mitchell County is 95.89%.
I'd like to just make a comment here, at 94%, and I understand that. We've been through many discussions about this, but I, for one, feel that is too low a target, because if you set your target low enough, you will eventually meet it. And I'm not saying that's what we're doing, but if the state's averaging 96% and the state is averaging higher than that, 98%, then why do we not do the same? And I understand, and I appreciate all the hard work you've done. There's certainly no reflection at all on you. You're working with the numbers you have to work with. Saying that going future years, whether I'm on this board or not, I would hope that we would percent level, because I've been paying taxes in this county for many years, and all of us have. And I know many people have been not paying taxes in this county for many years, and it's just not fair. And we, I know we have procedures in place to hopefully improve that, and I appreciate your work in making that happen and working with our attorney. But I would just like to make that point that I think we need to ratchet that up and begin to think about that, about attaining that, and as we move into the years forward.
That's absolutely right. As you know, we're legally barred from budgeting for that higher amount, but the goal in terms of, we should be higher, but we weren't actually at 94 last year. We're going to actually hit 94. Keep going like we've gone for the last week or so, and if it picks up the last, given the building people who have yet to pay their 20 pieces go into that, but absolutely it's manageable, but not comfortable, and there needs to be some pressure there.
Thank you.
Delinquent taxes from prior years, which is an issue, harder it is to collect. That is again something to bring those dollars in, but it's risky to budget on that. This budget is current year's budget, and we're about from sort of the low-hanging fruit for the outstanding account. But we were extremely successful. We collected the budget, none of it for the revenue. We've got to be careful in this budget. Tax collections are increasing. We are safely budgeting at 99% because it's tied to the registration amendment. Several times our all have gone upward because much faster than we thought. Sales tax proceeds are also increasing due to increased economic activity. 3/4 of that is because of increased activity here in the county, and a quarter because of increased activity statewide. This does not reflect the state system, but those dollars are increasing in this budget. It reflects $8.5 million. That's down for a couple of reasons. We have a couple of large grants that are go down. We also have more conservative department revenue. Hopefully we'll have a nice surprise when we can up those, but we don't want to count on needs and build significantly beyond both economic activity increase. This budget does appropriate $401,486 from fund balance. I've got these organized, the first three sections, previously restricted funds that came in either in money that is restricted or insurance money that's restricted at $99, and then some insurance settlement money from the Rock building at March. All of that, those revenues have come in either this budget cycle or even the previous ones, and that money is sitting in our bank account, can't be used for anything else. We're saying that we plan to pull from that this year. And then the second category would be one-time expenditures from Capital One that was previously set aside for $16,799 for creating a backup PSAT, public safety answering point at 911 is mandated by the state, and $50,000 we're able to save. Includes the revenues. A quick look at general fund expenditure. As you all know, about March, we asked each department to identify accepted, totaled over $200,000. There were some departments to 15 or 20%. 2% was a start in order to try to eat some of them. The total countywide reduction of positions is 11.15 full-time equivalent positions. 8 of those positions were vacant. About 4 of those positions were vacant throughout the either permanently held or to see whether it was needed or not. We have the equivalent of 3 filled positions that have been eliminated. 2 of those, 3 that have been eliminated, and we worked with those employees to handle that. Other vacancies that are needed in positions throughout the county, as well as 1 retirement. And then the 4th position is a combination of some part-time positions that were eliminated or some hours that were reduced for people. We have reduced funding to nonprofits that receive it. That's a reflection on the maintained fiscal year 2015 spending for public expense. That's $2,403,560. That is the main local funding source. And that goes into their budget and can go for teachers, support personnel, transportation. That was increased by 12% starting with the current year, and we're holding it even as a reflection of that big increase. But that 12% made up for several years of flat or decline increase, about 3/4 of that amount, whole harmless requirement that they have that was in place a year ago. The budget, as I mentioned in the fund balance discussion, appropriates $100,000 from 4042, which is restricted sales tax funds that can be used for no purpose except for school construction, for school system capital outlay, for the central office to determine where those funds should be used. The budget does reduce a by 5,000, 7,500. They will still, at the end, by the time that will still have a 22% increase over what they had a year ago. They jumped fairly significantly. And they do have some reserves to help with claims and issues like that.
Mr. Manager, excuse me for interrupting you. Something occurred to me the other day, and I've been puzzled by it. Did we ask the landfill for a 2% reduction?
We did.
Since they are funded separately, did we? I don't know if we ever discussed the need to that 2% reduction or not, and there may be a kind of since we're cutting them 2%, and then found that we felt like we could cut the card cost too. If you see what I mean, it's like that the 2% that we felt necessary for all the other county departments wouldn't apply to the land funded separately. Mm-hmm. And then we even have considered an adjustment to that funding, thinking that that was sufficient enough.
To be fair, I mean, and that's, you're right. You can't say $500 for landfill and the sheriff's department because it is an enterprise fund. And that enterprise fund means it's completely owned entirely by that card, no difference between the two. So I see your point very well there, because the savings, you save that money, it helps on the cost, ultimately save even more, we're able to do that. But initially, keeping one county department in harmony with the others. Some exceptions in the general fund budget to the 2% cut include 911. We have entry point that we discussed, which is designed to help during an emergency. It has to be outside the prefix in case something goes wrong. Marshall Fire. We have phased in those. We've got to pay a full coming year. The elections also includes an increase, though not as big as was in the initial proposal, due to a decision by the Board of Elections to purchase of voting machines. This budget did not include the cost of those machines, but it did include elections has made a decision that they would rather wait till after the round of elections to do that, and that creates some immediate savings in some of those areas. Still, hiring additional staff, 351, initially is going to be 47,000. And again, the courthouse work, which I discussed during the fund balance discussion. And then $75,000 appropriate, which is money that's available for unforeseen needs. It allows us to handle emergencies a little more smoothly without having to, and allows us to budget a little more honest pictures knowing that you might not need them. It's a very good thing, and ideally we'd have more money in there. And finally, based on most of what I've said so far, is you met as a board last week. Additional at the end of the year, the better picture we have was increased in some areas, or projection increase. And we also made some other decisions, and based on your recommendation, to place the software system at the tax office. There's an antiquated system there. It hurts productivity, and therefore lives in some ways. There's also fund servicing and the budget community service director. Physical location would likely be located services there. Budget also includes contract staffing for 1 year and funding to employ an additional building inspector to address the increased planning and economic development efforts. Are there any questions about the general fund? Brings us to landfill. The enterprise fund, funded by the collection fee on trash cars, the tipping fee for anyone who goes across the scale, the commercial haulers, dumpsters, have a business in the area, residential facility in some cases. Also going over there with their construction demolition debris, some money from the county, and the total revenues and expenditures for the landfill budget in this proposal $2,123,400. March, she held a work session to look at the landfill operations and get an overview of how that enterprise fund functions and how that independently funded functions. And looking at ways to increase efficiencies and look at long-term needs of the department, equipment, things of that nature. This budget appropriate fee on the card from $180 to $160 for households. And then you also have, as we said, the occupancy tax fund and the 911 fund. Those are completely independent. 911 fund, very restricted what it can be used for. The state approves every expenditure out of that, as does Darlene's typical policy for the finance office. TDA fund, fire tax, as was discussed last week, includes a proposal. cents, 9 cents, and 3 cents in Leicester, Buncombe County, and Mars Hill, Jenny Fox, regarding their justification for that. See, that's to hire part-time to fill full-time crowd as needed, increased cost of operations. Board approved a 2-cent increase last year, so they're saying they need this additional money to operate their department. They serve about in their district.
Enforce their number of calls that they actually high with the college there and on. That is one reason that this is needed for their services.
And they cover most of I-26 as well for accident response.
Yes, they do cover most of I-26. We have Chapel, but then, as Forrest stated, the Leicester Fire Department, in order to keep up with what Buncombe County's is, that was a mutual aid agreement we have with them, and that is why that is raised up from 11 to 14, is so we can meet our mutual aid agreement.
Any questions about the budget for me?
Any questions? I would like to thank each and every board member for the time and effort, our county manager, Darlene, finance, for the time that they have, many hours out of the normal and many weekends working on this for us, and we appreciate that very much. The public really not aware of how much you do, then I want to department head and each from the board. Okay, each board member has had the time to review the budget, to a presentation. At this time, do I hear a I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't have, okay. At this time, excuse me, getting a little bit ahead of myself. At this time,
Gentlemen, again, I'll reassure you all do an extremely difficult job in balancing the books and making sure to operate at a level at least that's adequate. I would be remiss if I say I was in a position to say that. Also, as a member of the public, I do want to just Forrest and the staff have done a wonderful job, and although I may be my wife, I just want to say thank you very much. I think it's a very county manager. I understand the different noise.
Don't leave.
Adjust the way in which people use our verges, what's near the roads, to be able to keep the trash removed from places where it does not belong. Yes, we can just reduce the landfill people who took their trash out outside the road anyway from doing just that. All of you, so you have received my letter. I believe trash begets trash. If we start with a big letter and enforce the litter laws, we will end up with a work hard. We all, our cyclists, the hot dog events in July have to go to country roads. They encounter trash. And we're very fortunate that we have a lot of people who are us in advance, but nevertheless it's not a very good poster child for what our local people feel about their county.
thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
All right. No more public comment. Okay. Now, do I hear a motion to adopt 2006?
Second.
All in favor of 2015-16 budget? All opposed? Likewise?
In my vote, I'm voting against. First of all, I want to thank Darlene and Forrest for the excellent job they've done. It's been a mind-bending, we're broke as far as any extra money coming into the county. and they've done an excellent job on doing this. And it's in prior years, if we could divide this into different sections of the budget, I could vote for part of it, and some of it I could vote against. And the reason I'm voting against it's a landfill. We have an improvement this time, and I'm very proud of that. And I want to thank all the commissioners for the time we've spent meeting and hashing this, and it's really a good budget in most cases. But the landfill, we do need to have an improvement in that. And that's my reason for voting against the budget. Like I say, I appreciate that these two have put, and I know it takes a lot of time to do this. Lots of time. And it's nothing at all against anyone. Is that we need to work harder and thing with the recycling to make this landfilling deal. You know, landfill it's a no-win situation. There's no to the plus side in the landfill, but we can make some improvement. By next good start. However, I think a landfill ought to be used. If you use it more, you ought to pay more. If you don't take time to recycle and if you want to not do that and you want to take your time to recycle, that would save money in the right situation. And that's the reason like I say, it's most of all it's a good budget, but the landfill is the reason my vote's no. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I address, have a lot of money and on back taxes, just on current tax, and now is up to moving some pride on that. Something that just occurred to me that I would like us to think about, and that's really why I wanted to speak, is it was pointed out by our manager that our vehicle collection, vehicle taxes are 99%, and we know why that is. It's because it's geared to get your tag, no pun intended with the gear, but you get your vehicle with 4 taxes. And we can see how that's something very upsetting. We might want to give some thought to some other things. If connecting the collection of taxes if connecting that to a license or obtain can make the property or the vehicle tax jump up to 9, perhaps we are providing some county services to some of our taxpayers, like the issuance of building permits or things like that, and we have to check that. But there may be to say, you know, you get something by living in Madison County or any county, and your tax fire response or sheriff's response or anything like that. But there might be just a threat of legal action. So that's just something maybe for us to think about the services that provide for people, and at least holding some of those if taxes are not paid, because that's what the thing I wanted to leave it for. Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion? We have already voted.
I would like to make a comment. I of course voted for the budget, but in a lot of ways I agree with what Mr. Briggs said. What he said makes a lot of sense. I think in this coming year, as we get smarter as a board, as we work closer with our county manager, and he works closer with the landfill manager, I think there's opportunities over there to decrease some, and I think there's opportunities there to increase some. The recyclables are actually an expense, and I I just have a hard time getting my mind wrapped to get his mind wrapped around that here. But again, I did vote for the budget. Based on what we have, we are a revenue-starved county. We all know that. That's nothing new. I've been here and we've had that problem consistently. But I am glad to see that we are taking an aggressive approach toward people who are not paying their taxes. That's absolutely the right thing to do. And I agree with Mr. Baker, if there's some way that we could tie that to something. If you know, I'm like Mr. Baker, I wouldn't want to have the Sheriff's Department access a list, say, well, we can't come out to your place because you haven't paid your taxes. I wouldn't go that far, but truthfully, you really almost want to. I mean, you know, that there's that side of me that kind of wants to just, you know, be fair to everyone, because as I said earlier, my wife and I, we have to find our tax money every year, and to live here, of course. If we live somewhere else, what we're paying, we understand that too. But I to this, this did not happen just by for a few minutes. Our county manager and our clerk put endless hours into this, and thank you all for that. We as a board put a few hours into it, but for every hour we put into it, they probably put 10 or 12, very much. You know, the department heads that helped to contribute to that 2% decrease, we certainly appreciate when you're sitting here. There's people throughout the county that want a second, and so I'm real proud that has happened in the room, and we've defended that we're all aware of, that if your party affiliation is the right thing, is the right thing, regardless. And we do appreciate the public being here tonight. That among our other citizens.
We hear your concerns and follow up and look at some of the things that you have brought up.
He's also offered to us another couple of people that are really interested in re-engineering some of these things, and sometimes you need some outside folks to do it, and you know, if they're willing to volunteer, it doesn't cost anything. So it's his brain.
But one thing, budget, you know, in voting for this budget, it gives me great satisfaction after raising. That's something that I think every board member don't want to do, is to get to the point where we have to raise taxes. Can't count any more in taxes, and therefore that is tightened down on the collection of back taxes in order to make up and try to get our revenue to where our expenditures and our revenues work. And that is one thing that we are doing our best to do. We've not had to lay any employees off, them being without a job. And that's something that has been really difficult at some of the decisions we had to make, but it was a big situation here, and we have to run it as a business. And I just want to thank everyone for their work.
Thank you, Wayne. I too voted for the budget. I think a lot of the comments that have been made here, that it's a wise budget. There's a lot of thanks to be shared here, but we've also processed, and something I'm very, very personally pleased about. As we've all worked through this process, and I think that is a good step forward for the future. Everyone here in this room wants this county to work together, and that makes me feel real good. And I think critical to the county because we have a fundamental consensus about what we want to do, and I think that's very, very good. And again, I want to thank my fellow commissioners. Thanks to Forrest and Darlene, to everyone else in the county, our employees. I'm pretty strict, but I really do believe we're moving in the right direction. One other comment. It is absolutely essential that we be fair, as Clayton said about the taxes. We have for too long had a culture of accommodation, and the situation out of hand. It is, but that's the only fair thing to do. So that's all I have to say. Thanks again to everybody, and encourage people to come. Now, I'm hoping everybody's watching at home, but you know, live participation is part of what this system's supposed to be about. So, but thank you for coming tonight.
Number 5 on our agenda, Darlene. Any discussion, Darlene, on our budget amendment number 13? This is a vehicle that the state requires our animal control to have. Transport various animals. It has to have certain size heat, it has to have air conditioning, it has to meet all these requirements that the state requires of it, and we have to meet those guidelines. Any more discussion on this? Do I hear a motion to approve budget amendment?
So moved.
Do I hear a
Second.
all in favor of budget amendment, right hand? All opposed likewise? Forrest has left us a description here if they have any description. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?